Hi, my name is Alex, and welcome to this lesson on doubling consonants for 1 and 2 syllable words. Now, the rules that I'm going to give you today apply when you want to change a word into either the comparative, superlative, progressive, or past form. For example, when we're talking about the comparative and superlative forms, we're talking about words that end in ER and EST. For example, if we have the word big, if you want to change that into the comparative, we would say bigger, B-I-G-G-E-R, ends in ER. For superlative, it is EST, biggest. Now, when we're talking about the past form as well as the progressive form, we're talking about words that end in ED for the past, and we're talking about words that end in ING for the progressive. Okay, so let's take a look at these rules. Number 1. For 1-syllable words. We call this the Cbc Rule. So you might be asking yourself, what does Cbc stand for? Very simply, Cbc stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. So if a 1-syllable word ends in a consonant, vowel, consonant pattern, we double the last letter and add our ending. For example, it works better if you actually have an example. So let's look at the word stop. If we want to say stopped, if you want to put it in the past form, we see here the last 3 letters are T-O-P. Again, it's a 1-syllable word, stop. 1 syllable, ends in C-V-C, so we double the last letter, P, and we want to say stopped, right? So we just add ED, stopped. Same thing for this word, drip, D-R-I-P, drip, 1 syllable, C-V-C. So we would double the last P. So let's say we want to say something is dripping, so we would go P, double the P, I-N-G. Okay, and let's use the superlative form of EST, or biggest, for big. So again, big, most basic form, it's a 3-letter word, B-I-G, follows the consonant, vowel, consonant rule. So we want to say biggest, so we double the last letter, add EST. Okay, rule 2, this is a stress rule, and this applies to 2-syllable words. So, if we have a word like enter or exit, where is the stress on the word? It's in the first half of the word, the first syllable of the word. So when you say enter, exit, the stress is on the eh. So when the stress is on the first syllable of a word in a 2-syllable word, we do not double the last letter. So we would simply say, if you want to say entering, I-N-G, we would just add the ing. Same with exit. Again, exit. The stress is on the first syllable. Exit. Exit, right? The first syllable is more distinct. So we would just say, if you want to say we exited the theater, you would just add ed. Okay, so what do you think happens when the stress is on the second syllable? So here we have 2 other words. We have admit and we have begin. These are 2 words where the stress is on the second syllable. Admit, the stress again, second syllable. Begin, stress on the second syllable. In these cases, it has to follow the Cbc rule, by the way. Still has to go consonant, vowel, consonant, and we double the last letter. So we want to say admitting, you just double the last T. Okay, and again, this is begin, follows CVC, G-I-N, consonant, vowel, consonant. Second syllable is more stressed than the first. Double the last letter. And we're just going to put beginning for this one. Okay, so now that you have that down, why don't you go to engvid.com and check out the quiz to see if you fully got it. All right, thanks again for watching. My name is Alex. Take care. Whoa. One more thing. There is an exception to the rule. Okay, when you have a word that ends in a QUI plus a consonant pattern, it actually does follow the doubling consonant rule. Now, why that is because QU, when you pronounce the word quit, the Q sounds like a K, right? Wit, quit. You hear the W sound, it's a W. Okay, so if you have the Q, U, it actually makes a W sound, which makes this a consonant, vowel, consonant. So we would have to double the last letter. Let's say we want to say quitting. Quitting. Same with equip. So here we have QU, QUI. Equip. So this is kind of like a W sound, KW sound. Ip. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Here you're working on the sounds, QUI. So you would have to double the last letter. If you want to say equipped, we would write PED. Okay, so that's the exception. Remember that one? See you later.